Over there.
If you're still typing your coding prompts, you're leaving
If you observe the people around you, you will find most individuals follow a formula that has been subtly or not so subtly taught to them by their schools, their company, their parents, or society. That is, if you work hard, you will become successful, and once you become successful, then you will be happy. This pattern of belief explains what most often motivates us in life. We think if I just get that raise or hit that next sales target, I'll be happy. If I can just get that next good grade, I'll be happy. If I lose that 5 pounds, I'll be happy. And so on, success first, happiness second. The only problem is that this formula is broken. If success causes happiness, then every employee who gets a promotion, every student who receives an acceptance letter, everyone who has ever accomplished a goal of any kind should be happy. But with each victory, our goalpost of success keeps getting pushed further and further out, so that happiness gets pushed over the horizon. Even more important, the formula is broken because it is backward. More than a decade of groundbreaking research in the field of positive psychology and neuroscience has proven in no certain terms that the relationship between success and happiness works the other way around. Thanks to this cutting edge science, we now know that happiness is the precursor to success, not merely the result, and that happiness and optimism actually just fuel performance and achievement, giving us a competitive edge that I call the happiness advantage. Waiting to be happy limits our brain's potential for success, whereas cultivating positive brains makes us more motivated, efficient, resilient, creative, and productive, which drives performance upward. This discovery has been confirmed by thousands of scientific studies, and in my own work and research on 1,600 Harvard students and dozens of Fortune 500 companies worldwide. In this book, you will learn not only why the happiness advantage is so powerful, but how you can use it to own but how you can use it on a daily basis to increase your success at work. But I am getting excited and jumping ahead of myself. I began this book where I began my research at Harvard, where the happiness advantage was born. Discovering the happiness advantage. I applied to Harvard on a dare. I was raised in Waco, Texas, and never really expected to leave. As I was applying to Harvard, I was setting down roots and training to be a local volunteer firefighter. For me, Harvard was a place from the movies, the place mothers joke about their kids going to when they grow up. The chances of actually getting in were infinitesimally small. I told myself I'd be happy just to tell my kids someday, offhandedly at dinner, that I had even applied to Harvard. I imagined my imaginary children being quite impressed. When I unexpectedly got accepted, I felt thrilled and humbled by the privilege. I wanted to do the opportunity justice, so I went to Harvard and stayed for the next 12 years. When I left Waco, I had been out of Texas 4 times and never out of the country, so Texans consider anything out of Texas foreign travel. But as soon as I stepped out of the T in Cambridge and into Harvard Yale, I fell in love. So after getting my BA, I found a way to stay. I went to grad school, taught sections in 16 different courses, and then began delivering lectures. As I pursued my graduate studies, I also became a proctor, an officer of Harvard hired to live in residence with undergraduates to help them navigate the difficult path to both academic success and happiness within the ivory tower. This effectively meant that I lived in a college dorm for a total of 12 years of my life, not a fact I brought up on first date. I tell you this for two reasons. First, because I saw Harvard as such a privilege. It fundamentally changed the way my brain processed my experience. I felt grateful for every moment, even in the midst of stress, exams, and blizzards, something else I had only seen in movies. Second, my 12 years teaching in the classrooms and living in the dorms afford me a comprehensive view of how thousands of other Harvard students advance through the stresses and challenges of their college years. That's when I began noticing the patterns. Paradise Lost and Found. Around the time that Harvard was founded, John Milton wrote Paradise Lost. The mind is its own place, and in itself can make heaven of hell, a hell of heaven. 3,000 years later, I observed this principle come to life. Many of my students saw Harvard as a privilege, but others quickly lost sight of that reality and they focused only on the workload, the competition, the stress. They fretted incessantly about their future, despite the fact that they were earning a degree that would open so many doors. They felt overwhelmed by every small setback instead of energized by the possibilities in front of them. And after watching enough of those students struggle to make their way through, something dawned on me. Not only were these students the ones who seemed most susceptible to stress and depression, they were the ones whose grades academic performance was suffering the most. Years later, in the fall of 2000, I was invited to go on a month-long speaking tour throughout Africa. During a trip, a CEO from South Africa named Salim took me to Soweto, a township just outside of Johannesburg that many inspiring people, including Nelson Mandela and Archbishop Desmond Tutu, have called their home. We visited a school next to a shanty town where there was no electricity and scarce running water. Only when I was in front of the children did it dawn on me that none of the stories I normally use in my talks would work. Sharing the research and experiences of privileged American college students and wealthy, powerful business leaders seems inappropriate. So I try to open a dialogue. Struggling for points of common experience, I ask in a very clearly tongue-in-cheek tone, who here likes to do schoolwork? I thought the savingly universal state for schoolwork will bond us together. But to my shock, 95% of the children raised their hands and started smiling genuinely and enthusiastically. Afterward, I jokingly asked Salim why the children of Soweto were so weird. They see schoolwork as a privilege, he replied, one that many of their parents did not have. When I returned to Harvard 2 weeks later, I saw students complaining about the very thing the Soweto students saw as a privilege. I started to realize just how much our interpretation of reality changes our experience of that reality. The students who were so focused on the stress and the pressure, the ones who saw learning as a core, were missing out on all the opportunities right in front of them. While those who saw attending Harvard as a privilege seemed to shine even brighter, almost unconsciously at first, and then with ever increasing results. I became fascinated with what caused those high potential individuals to develop a positive mindset to excel, especially in such a competitive environment, and likewise, what caused those to succumb to the pressure to fail or stay back in a negative or neutral position.